We're super excited today because we have Carla and Heidi who are gonna come on and kind of tell y'all a little bit about their businesses and stuff. So be thinking of some questions y'all might have for them. Okay. So tell us a little bit, just kind of so everybody knows a little bit about your background, kind of where you came from before starting your bookkeeping business and what led you to starting your bookkeeping business.
Okay, my name is Carla Taylor, and I currently live on a ranch 30 miles from any town in eastern Wyoming. I grew up on a farm in southwestern Nebraska. It's about 4 hours from where I'm at now to where my folks' farm is. I have 4 kids. I have twin boys who are 25. One of them is married with one child expecting baby number 2 this summer, late summer. I'm so excited. And then my younger 2 boys are about to turn 17 and 15, and we have done a hybrid of homeschooling with them. Some of the time they've gone to public school, some of the time they've homeschooled, all 4 of those boys. Currently homeschooling with the idea that they may be back in public school next year. We'll see. What brought us to Wyoming is we work on a ranch with my husband's brother, and we came here because my husband wanted to plant a cowboy church in Wyoming. He loves Wyoming, and I did not know we were ever going to move back to Wyoming. I didn't move back to Wyoming. I moved to Wyoming. He moved back to Wyoming, but we are deep in the process of getting ready to have another move probably sometime in the next year or 18 months and starting a new church. And so that's what we do. My website says I'm the farmer's daughter and I'm the truck driver's wife. That is a pretty good explanation of what I have done in life. I really liked accounting, and even in high school, I took a couple of accounting classes in high school and then again in college. I don't have a degree in accounting necessarily. I have a couple of business degrees, but most of my corporate work has been at the local grain elevator as a grain buyer and a grain accountant, which is still accounting, but it's a different kind of accounting than what we're doing here. But in 2020, in the midst of COVID and everything, in November of 2020, I started my bookkeeping business because I knew that my job, and it was a me thing, it wasn't necessarily them, but I was struggling with the way COVID had affected my workplace and the way that my workplace was handling some things. And I knew that I was not going to be able to function in that environment for a whole lot longer. And so I started a bookkeeping business. I'm really leaning towards small businesses. A lot of my businesses are agricultural based businesses. I was just kind of doing some counting. I have 3 farmers, I have 1 truck driver, and then I have a lot of other, I have a painter, I have a construction company, I have a nail tech. So I've got a kind of a mix of people, but all of those people are, I have 4 farmers, are small business kind of people. And so I have very slowly grown. I was not someone who started my business and was making 6 figures. I'm still not making 6 figures, but I also really love to teach people and coach people. And so I started coaching with Megan before CB4S ever existed. And so I enjoy that too. I really enjoy helping people, especially when they first get started. I also can really tear apart receive payments, deposits, and
You've done a ton of that.
I've done a lot of that. As my business grew, I did work as a contractor for Megan quite a bit, and I have worked for a couple of other people as a contractor as my business has grown. And currently I'm kind of on a pause with adding any new clients unless they were to seek me out really directly. I'm not marketing real hard because my dad is having some health challenges. And so I'm spending the beginning part of my week almost every week running back to Nebraska to help with his doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
But y'all, that's the beauty of this business and having your own business and all the things. You can grow it how you want. So a lot of times all we see is people saying, oh, I got to 5 figures, 6 figures like overnight, and I have all these clients and I'm making 6 figures every year and like all that. You don't have to. You can do it how you want and grow your business how you want, choose to, because you are homeschooling, you're still very active with the farm stuff, taking care of your dad now, like all the things. So you can be flexible, like grow it how you want, choose how you want to see your business. And maybe it is 6 figures, maybe that's what you want. But I know, like, even for me, that's not something that I ever even dreamed was possible. Like when I started, that's not what I started it for. Choose what your business looks like. Exactly. And sometimes that gets hard when we're in these groups and stuff because you're seeing all these other people. So you're like, well, why am I not there? Why am I not? But that's when you got to really go back to, well, why did you start your business? What is your why and all that? So totally love that. So what's one thing that like you really wish from like one of the features that's been huge for you from a coaching program, like having a coaching program, courses, things like that, that's been, whether it's for you personally or that you've seen like with the students?
Well, I would say for me personally, even still, like I had a strong accounting background. I know a debit and a credit, and I know, assets and liabilities and some of that stuff that a lot of my clients don't even understand it, nor do they want to understand. But
Right.
so I had that strong accounting background, but there are times when I'm like, how should I handle XYZ? And I have, because of being a coach in this group and being a part of this group, I know I can go to the course and I can find a video about how to do whatever it is. Or if I can't find that, then I can ask the other coaches or I can ask in the group and say, hey, how would you handle this situation? Like, this is weird. And I have one now. One of my farmers this year sold their farm. They reinvested in new farmland in the United States, but they bought a ranch in Argentina. Yeah, I have some questions.
You
And
right?
so, like, do you 1099 people? Anyway, so those kind of questions. I mean, that I can go like, and I went back and I listened to Merrill's 1099 thing just yesterday. I was listening through it because I had a situation that I was not sure exactly how to handle it. I listened to his thing. I know how to handle it now. I didn't have to ask anybody a question. I could just go listen. And so I would encourage all of the students to, well, one, use your one-on-ones. That's why they're there. We like to help you. That's why we do this. We enjoy helping you, but also use the rest of the tools that you have available. Use the what's in the courses and use the podcasts and those sort of things. You can probably find the information that you need in the group somewhere, somehow.
Yep. Yep. Most definitely. Okay. If y'all have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. So we,
I want to kind of piggyback. I'll pipe in and like do my introduction, but just tail off of what Carla was saying was, just having those resources there. I found that for a little while there, when I was the first a part of a group where I had resources like that, I found that I didn't really take full advantage of them like I did, or like I probably should have. And it wasn't until I no longer had those resources that I was like, okay, I have to go and find this information for myself. And there is a lot of things that you can find, but it's just so nice to have it where it's like all right there, and to look at it like, you're using this for your education, for your use, so that you can learn from it and hopefully be able to like apply it to what's applicable to you, and not necessarily just kind of like coast through that information, where if you can draw from it and apply it and really retain that information. And if you don't know, or if you can't figure it out, that like having the mentors here as a group, but also that there are those resources for you to really dive into and take advantage of. I don't know if that makes sense, but just
yeah.
that's there
Yep.
for your benefit.
Yep. Most definitely. And then Carla, I see you kind of answered it, but
I did,
do you
but
mainly?
I'll answer it here. Someone was asking if I focus mainly on farming clients. Not necessarily. My church came to me and said, hey, we're looking for a bookkeeper. We wanted somebody local. Are you interested in doing this? And I'd had a little bit of exposure to nonprofit and a little bit exposure to church, not a lot. So I've learned a lot in this last year because that's one of the clients that I added last year. And honestly, I'm adding maybe 1 or 2 clients a year, and that's about it. And that's enough for me. But so I get a lot of questions in the group. If there's a farming question or a trucking question, I get tagged on those a lot. And I love to answer those questions because I grew up in that environment, and it just functions a little differently than some businesses. And just because of the nature of the business, those people are living on borrowed money a lot of the time. And so you get a lot more commingling because of the nature of the business. And it still is best practice to keep it separate, but you get a lot of commingling with farmers and ranchers because they're paying their their utility bill out of the farm account because that's where the money's coming from because they're borrowing that money. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily just take farming clients, but most of my clients are all very small town kind of people. The town I came from is about 1,500, 1,700 people. And a good portion of those clients or of my clients are from that town. But even here, the town we live close to here is again, 1,500 people. And so just small business more than a specific industry. But I do end up just by nature with a lot of agriculture clients.
Yep, most definitely. She said, I thought my niche would be nonprofits, and I'm finding it difficult to get those clients right now. I've had great luck with churches and local contractors, and I'm looking to change my niche more toward churches because I have a lot of knowledge there. Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely one of those things, y'all, to remember. Like, it's okay if you start out one way. I thought forming was going to be my industry because of where I came from, and I do not have a forming client. And that's okay, be as long as you're okay with pivoting that, because some people are like, no, this is all I want to do.
Yeah. And I would say, like, from the church standpoint, like I said, I had some exposure to church accounting and nonprofit accounting in that venue, but I also recognized, well, two things. The person I was taking over from really wanted to talk down to me because I didn't know fund accounting and that kind of thing. But when I got in there, she'd really done a terrible job with their books. But what I did was I went and invested in not a huge course, not like thousands of dollars course, but I spent a couple $100 to take a church accounting, a nonprofit church accounting kind of course so that I could be confident. And I learned from it, yes, but really what I got from it was confidence in knowing that I really do know what I'm doing. And I had the confidence of, being able to say, okay, yep, I understand how that works for sure now. I mean, I had an idea before, but I'm confident now in how it works and how to do it. And I've learned, through the year how to make things show up on the statements the way they want them to show up and that kind of thing. And so sometimes just taking a little bit of extra, not to mention, hey, it was tax deductible. And so for me,
Yeah.
and so just investing, it doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of dollars always that you're investing, but to continue to invest in your education is really important, whether it's marketing or a niche or whatever.
Yep. Most definitely. I agree with that completely because you're gonna I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, there's still stuff that comes up, like that it's a one-off situation. You never know everything. You've never come across every single client or every single situation that comes up. And let's face it, QuickBooks does updates and funky things and I'm gonna say by itself, but and creates its own issues on top of other problems that you see sometimes. So you just never know what you're going to run into. So yeah,
For sure.
It's definitely a good thing to always invest. Let's see. Sunshine said, I have been working with cannabis clients for the past 6 years, but it is so hard to get more clients because they are skeptical of outsiders. Yeah, so I mean, I don't work with the cannabis industry, but if you're open to other types of clients, I mean, there's definitely other clients out there for sure. And I think it also only takes getting your foot in the door with the right group, the right people, stuff like that. And then they're going to be great referrals because they all usually do network and stuff. So if you know the accounting or whatever software if they have some specific software, I don't know the cannabis industry. So I don't know any specifics around that, but anything like that. But I'm sure there's Facebook groups, there's things along those lines that you can really find some and get involved with for sure.
And I think relationships in any niche are going to be really important. Like you said, once you get your foot in the door, with the business industry or with the business community of that particular, niche or community or whatever, in my scenario, it's more of a community than it is I'm more leaning towards clients that are in a particular community than I am a niche, but all of my clients from my hometown, they're all intertwined. They're all in Rotary together. They're all in, Chamber of Commerce together and that sort of thing. And so when you can, just like, when we're helping coach you guys, it's my best day when I can coach somebody and they can be like, oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, I really understand now. That really helped me, even if it's just talking you off of a ledge or fixing a problem or whatever. But the same thing with my clients. at the end of the day, when they're like, you have taught me so much and you have made such a difference in my business, I can't thank you enough. They go tell people about that, and then that helps
Yep.
grow you.
Exactly. That's huge. That is definitely huge. Cynthia has a really good question. What do you do when you get potential clients, but they still don't sign even when you lowball the quote some? Being new, I feel like the insecure shows up because I still feel like I don't know enough to be a successful bookkeeper. What would you recommend that I do toward learning bookkeeping skills so I can finally feel like not feel like an imposter?
Well, I would say you're in the right spot. First of all, the the bookkeeper blueprint is huge in that, in gaining confidence. But I will tell you that I will go to Sherry a lot of times and I'll be like, okay, I've got this client and I'm going to quote him. And I threw out a really big quote this fall, you guys, or well, yeah, the end of November-ish, a really big quote. It was huge, but it also was a client that I wasn't sure I wanted because it was so huge. I wasn't sure I had the time to do that. And Sherry will be like, okay, Carla, this is what I would quote. And I kind of gulp and choke. And I'm like, there is no way. And I still do it. So this last one, I did quote really high because, well, I quoted it really high. I quoted it where Sherry told me to quote it or close because I wasn't sure I wanted it. And I knew if I got it and I underquoted it, I would be really, I personally, I get bitter about it and I get resentful towards the client, and then I don't want to do the work. And so you have to quote it well and be confident in your quote and be okay with walking away. You really do. And for me, I really struggle to raise the rates on my clients that I've had, but I at this point I have not ever lost a client in the last 4 years. So I only have 10, but I haven't lost any of them. Now I have several that are talking about retiring, and so they may close their business because they're retiring, and that's a different scenario. But to have that like broken relationship or have them walk away would be really hard on me. And so I work really hard to take care of the people I have. But yeah, I would say keep listening to Megan and Sherry and what they're teaching you as far as imposter syndrome and all of that different stuff that they talk about. Listen to the podcast and all of that so that you can get your confidence up, because they really do know what they're talking about.
Thanks. Yeah, and like as far as imposter and stuff goes, like y'all can hop on one-to-ones for any of this stuff too. Quotes, imposter syndrome, mindset stuff. Heidi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of to address some of these questions where it's like, okay, I don't have a lot of clients. How do I sell myself if I don't, have the history to really justify?
That's okay.
And, when I first started, I didn't have any clients, and I definitely struggled with the imposter syndrome where it was just like, same exact thing. I've asked those same questions. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I wouldn't hire myself if I knew that I didn't have any history or any background or anything like that. So why would these people? And it showed oftentimes where I would negotiate or I'd lower my prices so much that kind of came across as desperation. But ultimately, like, once you land that one client, or even prior to landing the one client, being a part of a group like this really does, it helped me to feel like, okay, even if I don't know, I can find out. And even if I'm not super experienced, I have this team behind me that can help me. And, I have these resources that can eventually get me to the place where it's like, okay, I know I have, X amount of clients. I have a lot of experience in different industries and things like that, where, it's just these building blocks. Like, you're not going to get there from 0 to 100 overnight, realistically, like some of these, and it can happen, but that shouldn't be the expectation. So it's just building blocks, like just get the one, and then you can work through that, apply what you know, and it's going to build over time. Hang on just a second.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so when I first started, I launched my business in September of 2021, and my intention with it was really just, I knew that I had history in finance and banking. It's something I've always really, was drawn to was like numbers and math. And I'd been, I'd worked for a lot of financial institutions. I'd been a mortgage loan officer. I went to school for finance and banking, but I had never really explored the bookkeeping aspect or like the accounting aspect. And the intention with it was my husband and I wanted to invest in other businesses. And the most intimidating part for me was the back office part. Like I had no idea what it would take to run a business from the back end, and like the bookkeeping and all of that was so intimidating to me. And I was like, well, it's definitely something that in the past, if I'm curious about something, I've been able to figure it out myself and learn how to do it myself. And I wanted to look into bookkeeping with the intention of just knowing, having that foundation of knowing how to do those things for myself. And then once I really got into it, I was like, oh, I actually think I'd be really good at this. And I find the tedious aspect that most people say they hate, like I actually think I would really enjoy this, to go through and to be a business owner where I feel like I'd be really hands-on. And so then I started going down the path of just like, well, maybe I could do this for other people too, where I may not know everything there is to know about it, but I do know some things more than maybe the average business owner because of A, B, and C, or because of my history or my past or anything like that. So I joined another group, an academy, where it was like I had that team sense of feeling where it was like if I had any questions I could ask. I had the resources to give me that confidence. And really the best thing is just to get those clients, just get one at a time, and then you can start applying these principles, applying these things that you're learning. Because going through different courses, a lot of information, for me at least, it seemed like it was not applicable because I wasn't, I didn't have anything to apply it to. So it was like kind of one in one ear and out the other, until I started getting these clients. And then it was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I think I saw something about that. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this, or I'm going to watch this video, or I'm going to ask this question in the group. And sometimes my questions would be repetitive. I'd ask the same things over and over again, but it would eventually stick. And it really was just a matter of doing it for my clients and knowing that if I don't know, I'm going to find out. And you get to decide how much of that you're transparent in with your clients. And, in these beginning stages where you may not have all that confidence, you don't need to tell them that. You don't need to say, oh, I've never had any clients before, hire me. You can kind of use this group to be like, talk about your passions, why you started your business, why you're even doing this in the first place. Like Megan was saying, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And being able to share that, and the right client will find you. And it's just one step at a time. Like that first client is probably going to hire you based on they like you as a person, or they like what they heard, or they feel the confidence to like, yes, help me as a business owner. Let's do this as a team type of thing.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how I grew, and it was slow at first. One of the best things for me, not only with being a part of a group that gave me that confidence to help with the imposter syndrome, but also I joined a local networking group. It was structured very similarly to BNI. And that's where pretty much even to this day, almost all of my clients have come from that networking group in some way or another. And I've been able to build my book of business. I've got 32 clients now. Some of them are really small, some of them are quarterly, and then I have a few really big ones that take a significant amount of time each month for those. But the industries are kind of all over the place. I've never really niched down to like, okay, this is the industry that I want to stick to. And as I am growing, that's something that's kind of always been in the back of my head. But because of the variety of businesses that I've been able to help, that imposter syndrome still kind of creeps back in sometimes, where it's like, anytime there's something new, anytime there's a different industry where it's like, okay, like I got to go and brush up on this or brush up on that, or I'm not really fully experienced in this specific industry, but I'm open to learning, and I'm open to say, okay, like I don't know, but I'm going to find out and do the work for it.
Yep, most definitely. I think that's one thing you have to remember is like be confident enough in yourself, like not necessarily as a bookkeeper, but know your personality and know you as a person, that like you're not going to hand over books or anything without knowing that it was done correctly. So, and whatever that means for you, whether it means getting in a one-to-one, getting somebody to look over it, or you've gotten on YouTube, you reviewed these videos, you make sure it's all done correctly, like you feel confident in it. But like knowing that, because same thing, like I didn't have the experience when I started, but I had to be confident enough in the people that I was asking for support from and all the things that I'm going to hand this over. And I'll also say, like, as far as like not having the experience, like y'all touched on that one, like remember as a mom, like whatever other job experience that you do have, what are some qualities of that you're bringing to the table as a bookkeeper, organization, like loving numbers, things like that? Just because when somebody says like, hey, what's your experience, they're not necessarily like, tell me every single thing, like they're looking for a resume or anything. They're just wanting to be able to be confident in the work that you're going to give them when you hand them their books back over. So I think that's huge
too. Like even now, I don't ever tell my, like if I have a potential client that reaches out to me, a part of my discovery calls and my like onboarding process, I've never once been like, oh, how, like they've never asked me how many clients do you have, and even if they did, I'm not going to be like, oh, I have X amount of clients, because it's irrelevant. Like it doesn't actually matter how many clients you have, and potentially it doesn't even really matter like, oh, I have X amount of experience. Like just simply saying I'm a very organized person, I have good attention to detail. I've even told someone like I'm a little bit OCD about certain things, but that's what makes me good about this. I'm really good at putting puzzle pieces together where it like, you've got an accounts receivable issue, like I'm really good at that. I can figure it out. I'm going to take the time to make sure that we are like cleaning everything up and unwinding it. And it's a really good feeling at the very end of a cleanup job to be like, like it's all perfect, you know? So something like that, like I've never told someone that. And I think I've been asked once before, like, how many clients do you have? But it really doesn't matter. So don't be worried about like that aspect of building a resume in that sense. Like just sell yourself as for the reasons why you got into this. Why do you think you'd be a good bookkeeper? Why do you think they should hire you? Like really should have nothing to do with how long you've been in business or how many clients you have, because it doesn't really matter. At least that's mine.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Carla, did you have something?
I did. I was just thinking about what I realized when I first started was because I was plugged in and I was reading other people's questions and I was reading the responses to other people's questions in the group, and I was watching the videos and I was watching the calls and all that kind of stuff. When I got on the phone with a potential, I didn't realize how much I knew until I was on the phone with a potential and they were asking me questions and I was like, oh yeah. And I could totally and completely confidently answer their questions because I had been plugged in. And even now I kind of forget, and then I'll get on the call with somebody, and sometimes it's not even a potential client. It'll be somebody that's like, hey, I have a question about, because I've had some really small business people call me to ask me questions and they're really not ready to hire a bookkeeper yet, most of them. But I can very confidently answer their questions. And I forget that I have all of that knowledge until I get on those calls. And it just reminds me, oh yeah. I mean, it's just a good reminder that you really do. And so there's nothing better for your confidence than to go through a couple of calls, even if you don't get the client.
And to learn from those too. Like
Yeah.
it didn't take me too many calls to figure out, oh, I need to start asking that question, or like, oh, wait, okay, this is something that I can kind of like nip in the butt if they are talking about this or whatever. And you learn from those calls. So even if you have, like one of the comments was like, hey, what if they still don't sign, even if I gave them a low ball offer? Well, then you need to take from that opportunity what you can to learn from it. If they don't end up signing with you, at least you got some learning, like some experience on, you had a call, you were able to put together a quote or a proposal. Like all of those things are building blocks for you to gain the confidence where if that wasn't the right one, it's not the right one, and you can learn from it and be better the next time.
Yep. You can't say the wrong things to the right person. Somebody told me that very, very early on in my business, and I hung on to that. And I went into every conversation with potentials, DMs, whatever it was, what as a learning, like, what can I learn from this? Because whatever the outcome is, it's going to happen no matter what I say to them. So how can I learn from this situation? So definitely do that. So somebody asked in the comments, what if they ask for references? Have either one of you been asked for references by potentials?
I have not ever been asked for references. Again, I'm working mostly in a community where people, even though I don't necessarily know the people personally that I end up with as clients, I'm known in the community. So that maybe is the difference. But like Sherry was saying, she said, I haven't ever been asked for references. And I think it's really how you present yourself. I have one time and I got zero response and it was fine. I just knew I wasn't supposed to have that client. One time there was a company in town that was looking for a bookkeeper to come and sit in their office. And I sent them a letter and just said, hey, I know you're looking for an employee, but have you considered just outsourcing this? I would be interested in taking you on as a client, but I make it really clear that I am taking you on as a client. I am not your employee. And having been an employee, I'm not a great one. And I don't, and so I'm like, nope, not interested in that. Thanks. I need the flexibility of owning my own business and I will get your books done, but I will do it on my terms, not
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
yours. And I'm not rude about it at all necessarily. I'm just I'm yeah, I haven't ever really had anybody ask me for references ever. I do have clients that have been referred to me from other clients that have been like at one well, a couple of different of my clients in particular that are especially really involved in Rotary and stuff like that. They're talking to their other business friends and they're like, hey, you need to go talk to Carla. She does an amazing job on your books. You will not be sorry that you did. And so, but I haven't ever had anybody ask me.
Have you, Heidi? No.
No, I did have it was actually a nonprofit, which I don't work with. I've worked with one for a cleanup job, but that one they did ask for references and like a resume. And I remember the feeling of panic being like, a resume. Like I haven't made a resume in forever, and it ended up not working out. And to me, it was for the better. Like I was grateful that I didn't end up pursuing that. And it wasn't because they asked for references. Obviously, there were a few other factors for why it didn't work out, but that was the only time that they asked for references. And it wasn't necessarily references in the sense of how a normal employee resume situation works. It was more just like, do you have clients existing that they'd be willing to share their experience with you? And surprisingly, so I did it far enough where I actually asked 3 or 4 of my clients and said, hey, I have a potential that wants to work with me and they'd like to know. I haven't disclosed your name or anything. Like I just sent that initial email just to see if they would even be willing to. And every single one that I sent it to, they were like, yeah, oh, I would totally be happy to. Yeah. Who are they? I'll talk to them. They were very willing. And it never really, they never made the connection just because of the other things that didn't end up working out with this potential. But it definitely made me feel good that it was like, oh, if I have to, like they would be willing to talk to someone and say, yes, I've really enjoyed working with Heidi and her team. And this is my experience. I didn't get any pushback or hesitancy there. So that was kind of a confidence boost for me. So
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I think y'all are right. It definitely depends on how you approach and handle a situation. But I have heard several bookkeepers. It's not a common thing that you get asked, but it is something that does get asked. So like you're not alone in that fear behind that. But most of the time it is because they're used to having an employee or they're hiring employees. So now they're trying to make that adjustment. And you can usually just remind them like, hey, I am a business owner, so I typically don't do that. And then they're usually okay with that. So yeah. Let's see. Sunshine said, I told clients that I could not give out my clients' information due to confidentiality, but I work with companies in these industries. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
The other thing you can do, oh, there's my camera. The other thing you can do is no, I don't do it all the time, but like once a year or something, just send out an email to my client saying, hey, I need some new marketing material. Would you be willing to write a write a review. And
Yep.
a lot of times they will. And then you have, I mean, sometimes I use quotes that they tell me on the phone, but a lot of times I will just ask for them, and then they'll either respond to a post that I have on social media, or they will send me a quote or something like that. And you can be like, these are what my current clients are saying about me.
Yep, most definitely. Let's see. Sherry said, since you're a business owner, you can send them a testimonial page. Sometimes when a couple of ad hoc tasks can get you these testimonials, if that helps. Yeah, I can tell y'all in the beginning of my business, I didn't like not having experience. One thing that I did was some of the conversations that I had with people, like where they might have not been ready for a bookkeeper. So it was like, hey, like they wanted to pay for the call or whatever. And it was like, no, just leave me a review. Like that's going to help me more than paying me for 30 minutes of my time. So like a lot of people are really awesome about that, and they want to help you as much as they can, just like you help them. So they're willing to give back and give you those reviews and for the time that you gave them. So does anybody else have any questions for them? I know I have another one. What is, like, if y'all were starting back your business over today, is there anything else that y'all would do different?
I think for me, I got really hung up on like, well, I can't do this if I don't have Keeper, or I can't do this if I don't have like tech stack kind of stuff. And even now, I'm always like evaluating my tech stack, and would I, like what can I get rid of? And I had one recently. I'm like, I'm paying $35 a month for that, and I almost never use it because I have a subscription to Panda Docs, because then I can have my template for my engagement letter and my ACH and all those things. So I was like evaluating, maybe I can get rid of that. Maybe I can use like Google Docs or Google whatever. They have a new DocuSign thing now. And so I tested it with a client that needed to sign a new engagement letter. It was a disaster, and it was probably because I didn't know how to use it right. But I'm like, nope, keeping Panda Docs, even though I only use it a couple of times a year. But those kind of things, I was really hung up on, a lot of those things that were tech stack kind of things that I was spending money on that I didn't really need to. And somebody else says, Celeste is saying in the comments that she would price better. That also is, and I know that's something I'm always going to struggle with, is like, they're in a small town. We're not like, they're not going to be able to pay that. And me projecting what I think they can or can't pay versus just pricing it at what it's worth and being okay with letting them go if they aren't willing to pay it. The other thing I've done though too is I had a client that was, oh, I don't think I can afford you. And so after I had kind of gotten her cleaned up, I said, now what do you think? We talked about what she wanted from me for that next year. And I said, what do you think that would be worth to you? Instead of me pricing it, I had a kind of a number in my head. Well, she came back with a number that was $100 more a month than I was going to ask for. So those sort of things from a pricing standpoint, I mean, it depends on the situation, obviously, but asking them, what do you think that's worth to you, sometimes will surprise you.
Yeah, I feel like when Celeste first said I would price better, I was like, oh yeah, probably. But also I've looked at those first clients that I did probably price too low. I looked at it like I was getting something from that relationship that wasn't necessarily monetarily priced. Like I was getting experience that I wouldn't have otherwise. And I was given opportunities that you don't get until you have a client. So I'm not saying like don't go out there and do charity work and price so low that you're like pulling your hair out, but also just know like take that opportunity. Like even if you do feel like it's priced too low, you might want to look at it for more than just the money aspect from the experience and things like that. And just also know like I've had to do price increases where those ones where I was like, oh yeah, I've worked with you for a year now. I have definitely underpriced. I'm not going to go back and be like, you owe me a whole bunch of money, but I am going to say, hey, I got you in at an introductory rate. Now that I have a better idea of your accounts, even like 6 months after, even sometimes I now put it in my contract on a quarterly basis. We have the right to review our prices and things like that, where they should have the expectation that this is where we're starting you, and it can go up, and at that point you can choose whether you want to continue or not. But you're not stuck at those prices forever, so don't get so hung up on that, because You can always do a price increase. You can always readdress those types of things, and just know that you're getting something too besides just the money. I mean, our point is to make money in this, so don't let go of that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. The value's there, like the learning experience is there. So we do have a couple other questions. What advice would you give to new bookkeepers?
I've said it probably 10 times in this call, but just plug into this group, plug into the resources that you have available to you. If you're just getting started and you don't have a lot of clients, go watch videos. Go through the course that Megan and Sherry put together. It's a great course and they're updating it all the time. And so go through the course, go use the resources that you have to learn everything that you can. And then, go through Megan, my brain is fried with all the other stuff I've been doing. What is the dealio that you guys have done? I've done it, but
The
I can't remember
bookkeeper
what it's called.
blueprint.
Yes, no, no, not that.
What?
It's an add-on to that, I think. That's like the Sherry, what is the thing?
Success plan.
Yes, the success plan. Thank you.
Oh,
Sherry
yeah,
knew
yeah,
what I
yeah,
was
yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes, the success plan was really pivotal for me. It's in the revenue infusion bundle, Sherry says.
So yeah, it's
Go
all
through
in the
that.
course now. You get
Yeah,
access to all that.
was really pivotal for me. And then you got to put yourself out there, however that is for you, whether it's joining a BNI group or a networking group. Or one thing that was helpful for me was I was posting on my social media page, and asking people to share that. But when I started sharing in like local for sale groups and stuff like that, that has helped me get clients also. So those are the things that I would say.
Yeah, I would say those are my two biggest things that I feel like really helped my growth, was really just giving me the confidence from being a part of a group like this that really gave me like, okay, I've got the imposter syndrome, but I can work through it. And if I get a client that's too much, I can handle it. I can take care of it. I've got the resources. And then the second one was to join that networking group, whether, just like Carla said, whether it's BNI, whether it's a local networking group. For me, it was really, really beneficial. I got returned on my investment within a month and tenfolds, right? Like I found something that really worked for me. And everything came from there. And it really was just like every client that I got, even every call, I would get a message from someone saying, hey, I need a quote for bookkeeping. Like just having the opportunity to talk to someone about their needs, I knew that it would be a learning opportunity for me. So whether it's a new call or a new client, like just one at a time, just get those, post on your Facebook, things like that. Just do what you can on the networking side of it.
Most definitely. So Sunshine had a question and she asked, what is the most common topic you cover with people in one-to-ones? So I guess if y'all want to just tell, like, so Heidi is new coaching in our program. So what are topics that y'all are confident in helping coach?
So yeah, I'm rusty a little bit. I did do some mentoring in another group, but it's been a couple years. So I feel like something that I have a lot of experience in is like Square, Stripe, those e-commerce sites. Now, my experience is limited to who my clients are and what industries they're in, but being able to give a basic understanding of why we're doing certain journal entries and what reports we're looking for can help so that you can apply it to whatever industry or whatever client you have. I've definitely gone down the road of having some really, really messy cleanup jobs with accounts receivables. So deposits, payments, invoices, sales receipts, all of that. And some even, really tricky reconciliations. I also do have history, not with payroll in general, with like running payroll. I don't actually offer that as a service, but I do have experience in like the journal entries and also the mapping when it comes to QuickBooks online, with QuickBooks payroll. I know how to kind of help with some of that mapping if there's anything wrong with that. some of those like puzzle pieces, kind of investigative cleanup jobs type of thing. And yeah, so I'd say those are the two things that I kind of are unique to that. And then just, basic anything else.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. So I would, at the beginning when we were first starting with CB for us and the Bookkeeper Blueprint, I did only really simple stuff. And I don't do a ton of coaching calls. I don't have a ton of space in my schedule for it, but I have helped with a lot of reconciliation issues. And like Heidi was saying, tricky reconciliations. And like Heidi, I have been through some really messy cleanups that have had a lot of, AR issues where your undeposited funds issues, unapplied cash payment kind of issues. Obviously, farming, ranching, trucking, I answer a lot of those kind of questions. And sometimes it's just like, sometimes it may be a really simple issue, but it's really more of a confidence thing. And I really love to help build people up and help them to gain confidence in what they're doing. Because a lot of times when you guys get on with a question, sometimes you may not know the answer, but sometimes you know the answer. You just need the confidence of somebody holding your hand saying, it's okay, click the button. And so, yeah, those kind of things.
Awesome.
I was gonna address Sean. She said, I'm attending a BNI meeting tomorrow. Any advice? I would say work on your elevator pitch, your 30, 45 second, like who you are, what your business is, like what you do, what kind of, if you have a niche, if you anything that you can give to them, practice it. Because for me, the first networking group I went to, I had no expectation. I didn't even know I was supposed to stand up and talk. So I was like a deer in headlights. It was so bad, you guys. It was horrible. I can't believe that I even like can stand by and say, yeah, go do that, because it was so bad. But just that's my piece of advice. They make you stand up and like give your little spiel. So practice that ahead of time so that you know what to say.
Definitely. We always say learn from our mistakes. That's what we're here. Teach you what we did wrong. So yeah, definitely. Awesome. Any last questions? If y'all have them, drop them in the chat. Allie, I don't know if you see any on Facebook. I have not checked Facebook. If you can you give somebody asked if you can give some of those example questions, but I do not know what that was in regards to. I don't know when that question was asked. I see it on Facebook though. So I don't know what that, if you're still listening and you want to let me know what that was in regards to, we can answer that. If anybody is interested, you can book one-to-ones with Heidi or Carla, as well as the other coaches. So if you're in, you can purchase our Bookkeeper Blueprint program and you get 2 one-to-ones a month with that. And you also have some interaction with them in the group as well in the paid group if you ask questions there. Or if you just want to purchase individual one-to-ones, you're able to do that as well. So if you just have some one-off questions that come up and you need some help working through it, you can definitely hop on one-to-ones with them for those as well. So there's a few different options if you're interested in hopping on one-to-ones with either of them. And we can, we'll pull up the, do you have the link? Oh, here it is. So here's a link if y'all need that. I'll drop it on Facebook as well. Awesome. Allie dropped the link for the program. Here's the link for the coaching calls. Can you just reaffirm it's doable to earn six figures in this business? I really just need to hear it one more time for motivation. Yes, it definitely is.
It took me a while though. This last year was the first year that I actually reached 6 figures. So each year has kind of grown exponentially for me. So to some people, they'll do it within the first year. Congratulations, that's amazing. For me, that wasn't my intention when I first joined. My intention was like, oh, I just want to make a few extra $1,000s as like extra money. And then eventually it was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this full time and now I'm making this much. And my husband's like, I'm not working anymore. That took us a long time. That took us quite a while to get there. So
that's awesome then.
pair that with your expectation and your motivation.
But yeah, it's definitely doable for sure. So happy to answer any questions that you have. I know you and I've chatted a while on calls about that. So happy to answer any more questions, but keep pushing and keep going, keep focused on what your why is, your goals are. Those are going to be huge, huge things that really help push you to reach that. You have to be clear on those goals. Because again, some people don't want 6-figure businesses, some people do, but that's the beauty of having a bookkeeping business. You can build it how you want to build it out. So whether it's six figures, if you want to have employees, if you just want to work for yourself and just make a little bit of money, you can do that as well. So there's so many different options with this. We have all the coaches have different or at different levels, one at different goals, start it for different reasons, marketing different ways. The students in the program, same thing. So there's so many different, I just want my time back. Yeah. I mean, that's huge. That's the first thing you definitely want to set. But I know you're working full time now. If I remember correctly, doing school, doing this, filing taxes, like you're doing all the things. So right now your time is all over the place, I'm sure. So just figure out what that looks like. Like, what does that mean for you to where do you need to be able to leave your 9 to 5 to be able to get that time back? Because I mean, it is a lot in the beginning to have to put in the hours and all the things to get to that point. So let me see, Facebook. Allie, did I miss anything else? I think that's all, yeah.
So sorry, my dog's going crazy in the background, but no, I don't. I think so.
No, you're good.
Yeah, next week we have a super exciting special guest. I'll let you talk about it, Megan.
Yeah, I know Carla's super excited with me. So y'all, Jennifer Allwood will be joining us next week. Some of y'all heard her last year when she came in. If you're not familiar with her, she is a Christian business coach. She wrote Fear is Not the Boss of You. So y'all heard me talk about that plenty of times. So she will be coming on here to just talk mindset and all the things. So I am super excited to have her on here again. If y'all have questions that y'all want to ask her, last time we just kind of did a Q&A. She talked some on fear, imposter syndrome, all those things. So if you have questions, you want to make sure like she touches on those topics, definitely send us an email, send us a message, let us know. We'll make sure we get those answered when she's on the call. But the call last time was so awesome, so much information. So if y'all can be there, catch it live. If not, we'll have the replay for that. But we're super excited about that. And yeah, anything else, Allie? I think that's it. Okay. Well, if y'all need anything, Heidi, Carla, thank y'all so much for hopping on today. If anybody needs anything, feel free to post in the group, send us a message, let us know if y'all need to get on their calendars, if you have any issues, anything like that, let us know. We are happy to help, and we will see y'all next week. Y'all have an awesome weekend. Bye.